This is an important session for the writing task 1 of the academic module, and I want to talk about describing trends, which is one of the micro skills that you need to have in order to write your task 1 answer properly. Now, what do I mean by describing trends? I'm talking about the ups and the downs in a graph. So, for example, with bar charts, line graphs, tables, there will be data where things are going up and things are going down. And this is the session where we can look at how to describe those kind of patterns. Now, the first thing you need really is vocabulary to talk about the ups and the downs. So here's a useful list, and this list can be made downloadable for you, so you don't need to worry about copying them down here. But let's begin with upward trends. So we have things like increase, rise, rocket, surge, grow, explode, shoot up, recover, peak, improve, and soar. So these are all good vocabulary to use. Remember, of course, that vocabulary is important. One of the ways to get a high score is to use more interesting vocabulary to describe these trends. So this list is certainly not a closed list, but it will introduce you to some useful vocabulary. Don't just limit yourself to simple words like increase and fall. Okay, that's upward trends. Here are some words for downward trends: decrease, fall, ebb, plunge, plummet, falter, slide, slip, halve, drop, decline, and dip. Now, of course, all of these words mean some kind of downward trend, as the title tells you. So even if these words are new, don't worry too much. That is what they mean. And we also have some useful nouns: upturn, downturn, recovery, explosion, fluctuation, growth. And some adjectives and adverbs there. Of course, with the adverbs, you simply add ly to make the adverb form. So steady, constant, dramatic, noticeable, considerable, slow, fast, substantial, rapid, slight, volatile, conspicuous. Volatile means dramatic. It's only an adjective there. Notice there it cannot be made into an adverb. Conspicuous is similar to noticeable. And then a few other verbs: remain constant, level off, reach a plateau. And these three talk about where there is a stable graph, meaning that there is no ups or no downs, it's just flat. And then, of course, we have fluctuate. Now, that's some interesting vocabulary, and if you can learn and become familiar with these items, that will give you lots of ammunition to describe trends flexibly and in an interesting way, which is going to increase your score. However, we do need to look at exactly how to use these words in sentences. So I'd like to look at the sentence structure and the application of this key vocabulary now. And what we'll do is we'll begin with an example sentence here. So the number of university graduates who found employment fell noticeably by 15% between 2008 and 2010. That would be a typical sentence to describe a trend. And there's also a second way of describing it. There was a noticeable fall in the number of university graduates who found employment by 15% between 2008 and 2010. Now, if you look at these two example sentences, they give you the same information. Both tell you exactly the same thing. However, there is a difference in the structure of these sentences, and I'll just highlight these for you here. So if we look at these, you can see that I've underlined the key difference in these two different structures. So you've got the first one, the number of university graduates who found employment fell noticeably by 15% between 2008 and 2010. And then in the second one, we have there was a noticeable fall in the number of university graduates who found employment by 15% between 2008 and 2010. So with the first one, fell noticeably, we have the verb plus adverb. And then with the second one, we have noticeable fall, which is an adjective plus noun. And this is the first thing to remember with trend vocabulary, that a lot of the time your trend word can either be a noun or a verb. However, it's not always true that your trend is always a noun or always a verb. Sometimes it is only a verb or only a noun. Or sometimes the verb form and the noun form are different. So we need to think about that. And certainly when you're using the vocabulary, you need to remember whether it is a verb or whether it is a noun. So if I look at the next slide, what I've done is I've just divided some examples. These are the verbs that you can use. So we've got increase, decrease, rise, fall, rocket, surge, grow, explode, shoot up, recover, peak, improve, soar, remain constant, level off, reach a plateau, fluctuate, ebb, plunge, plummet, falter, slide, slip, halve, drop, decline. They are all verbs. And then we have the noun forms here. So we've got upturn, downturn, recovery, fluctuation, growth, increase, rise, rocket, surge, grow, explode, peak, improvement, soar, decrease, fall, ebb, plunge, plummet, falter, slide, slip, halve, drop, decline, and dip. And then also the next set is adjectives and adverbs, which is the same as the previous slide really. Steady, constant, dramatic, noticeable, considerable, consistent, slow, fast, substantial, rapid, slight, volatile, and conspicuous from the previous list that I showed you. Now, here the important thing is to remember, are you using a verb or are you using a noun? So let's go back to the example sentences that I showed you, and we'll look at these in more detail. So with this sentence, notice that you begin with what is called the variable. And here we have the number of university graduates who found employment. So of course the variable will come from the graph that you're trying to explain. And then here, fell noticeably, the next part, that is your verb and your adverb describing the trend. And then we have the amount, or what I call the data, by 15%. and then the time between 2008 and 2010. Now, of course, remember that the time phrase can go at the beginning or at the end. So if you wanted to, you could move that. You could say between 2008 and 2010, the number of university graduates found employment. Now, let's look at the second type. So here we begin with the time phrase, and then we have the dummy subject, there was, and then we have and then your trend, a noticeable fall. Notice you need a or an because here fall is a noun, so you need your article to describe the noun. So it's a fall, a rise, an increase, a drop, a plunge, and so on. And then the next part is to remember that you need the preposition in. So a fall in, a drop in, an increase in, a rise in, and so on. And then here you can see the variable is the same, the number of university graduates who found employment. And then we have the data, and that's it. So basically, there are 4 elements to your sentences here. You have the variable, the data, the trend, and the time. And these 4 parts make up the whole sentence structure there. Now, it is important to practice and to become familiar with writing out these trends. So just to close this session, I want to suggest a few things that you need to do in order to improve your skills with writing trends. The first thing you need to do is to make sure that you know the trend vocabulary. And here, remember that, as I said, one way to score highly in your writing is to use interesting vocabulary. So I've provided you with a wide range of verbs and nouns that you can use that will certainly improve the quality of your task 1, but you need to internalize and actually learn this vocabulary. So record the vocabulary, memorize it so you actually know it, and then the step 3 is you need to practice writing out these trend sentences, because especially if you have a table, a line chart, or a bar chart, or pie charts, it's very likely that you will need to describe the ups and the downs. So the best thing to do is to get more practice. And there are some practice exercises here that you can download to become more skillful with. So I strongly suggest that you download those and have a go so that you can write the trends more effectively. So that summarizes this particular session. We've looked at key vocabulary, and we've looked at how to actually use the vocabulary in sentence structures. Now, there are a few more micro skills to learn. I've already mentioned the variables, and there is another video that you should look at related to variables, and we will also look at comparisons. So please check those 2 videos out as well in order to understand how to answer the task 1 question better and more effectively.